How do we know what we know about turfgrass science? Welcome to Turfgrass Epistemology.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Turfgrass Epistemology. I'm glad you could join me this evening. In this episode, we're going to be going over comments and emails from all sorts of stuff, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and going to have a little fun. There's kind of like a mini tinfoil turfgrass in here. There's a video that's about 9 minutes long. We have some videos from Facebook, some ads. Looks like we have, I don't know, a couple different things on molasses or something maybe, or just all sorts of fun stuff tonight. And, actually I forgot to include a couple of comments from YouTube today. If I can remember, I probably won't remember, but if I can remember, I'll mention those. If you're a member, you can go to the posts on YouTube. And I posted the bingo card link earlier. I reset the board from Monday. I was going to reuse the same board, which is basically the same board, but it's wiped out clean, so you can start fresh and you can play along in the world of bingo. If you're new to the channel, or this is your first time watching or listening on TikTok, and looks like we're on Facebook and Twitch now as well simultaneously. We'll see how this goes. I tried it for the first time yesterday on the members only stream, and it seemed like it worked for the most part. If you watched yesterday morning on TikTok or one of the other platforms other than YouTube, that'll probably be one of the only members only streams that is broadcast on those other platforms. Remember, if you want to watch a Monday morning show, you need to be a member on YouTube. I do that at 10 a.m. Eastern time on each Monday, as long as my kids are in school or whatever. And then I broadcast on Tuesday evenings that's 10 a.m. on Monday morning, and then 8 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday evening to everybody. And if you're joining me for the first time, welcome. We're going to go over a lot of turfgrass science tonight. We're going to be going over a lot of how not to do things sort of content. And we're going to get started. The first half of this was yesterday, and it was like 2 hours long. I'm pretty sure I can do the rest tonight in about an hour, I think. I'm not real confident about that, to be frank, but pretty sure I can do it in an hour. Let's go straight to the emails. Came in from email. It says, "This is an interesting take on liquid aeration. Haha." And then he has a link. This person sent me a link to a video on YouTube. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that video on YouTube, and we're going to watch this video. Now, I believe I've covered this before, this channel before. This channel is called Natural State Horticare. This video is called "Why We Are Making the Switch to Liquid Aeration." If you are new to the channel and you haven't watched any of the content prior on liquid aeration, what liquid aeration is a scam set up in the lawn care industry to convince people to buy a liquid product that would aerify their soil in replacement, or rather than use a mechanical aerifier to open up compacted soils. There is no such thing as a liquid aeration. The compaction that exists in your soil is a result of physical compaction compressing the soil particles closer together. And there is no liquid product that's going to magically spread those back apart. But what caught on a while back, actually, it wasn't really started in the 50s. There was a little hint of it in the 50s from a wetting agent article. They weren't really talking about using it for alleviating compaction. They were talking about using wetting agents to get the water to move into compacted soils. And sometime, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, a while back, a couple of nefarious scam artists figured out that they could convince people to buy this magic brown dirt water and tell them that it's going to aerify their soil. And it kind of looks like it does, because on compacted areas, it goes into those compacted areas where regular hose water probably wouldn't. But it does that through a surfactant, through a wetting agent that's in the solution. It doesn't do that through aerifying the soil. In other words, when that particular area dries out, it's still just as compacted as it was before the water entered the soil. So that's what it is. It's really a shame. There's an article on this from the University of Georgia, and it clearly shows that liquid aeration doesn't do jack squat. There's really no other way to say it. But this particular gentleman from Natural State Horticare, I believe, is a victim of that misinformation. And unfortunately, he's got scammed into using it. And what the flaw is he's going to use, and normally I wouldn't really care. I mean, I wouldn't really attack or talk about the person, having that false belief. Everybody holds false beliefs, and that's a shame. I try to minimize those as best I can. But when you get on YouTube and you start convincing other people to believe your false belief, then that's where I draw the line. But I am sorry that this gentleman has been deceived. But the flaw he's going to commit is he's going to say, well, we can't aerify anymore, so instead we're going to do this. And that's usually called the middle ground fallacy, where it's like, well, we can't do that. We can't do nothing. So somewhere in the middle must be okay. Even if there's no evidence to support it, we might as well use it rather than not use it, because maybe it does something. And that's the flaw. It's a real shame that he fell into that. But let's listen to what he has to say. I don't know this gentleman's name, but it's why we are making the switch to liquid aeration by Natural State Horticare. I believe it's out of Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken.
It is now illegal, not an option.
Oh, wait, let me back up. Okay, sorry.
Let me be honest with you guys. So for years, I have kind of talked some trash about liquid aeration. Unfortunately, I'm having to eat crow a little bit. The laws have changed in Arkansas specifically. So unfortunately, they have passed a new law that broadly describes digging and excavation on properties in Arkansas. It is now illegal, not an option. You have to call 811 for every single digging project, period, the end. There's no minimum depth anymore. Meaning if you put a shovel in the ground, if you plant a plant, if you aerate, even though the cores don't even go hardly 3 inches into the ground, and you hit a utility that was not marked by 811, you are liable for that repair at the very least. As a company.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That really is. I don't know how many times I've cut my fiber optic line going into my house. Either I've probably cut it freaking 8 times. I've only been here for 8 years, 9 years, whatever it's been. My neighbors cut it 2 or 3 times. My invisible dog fence, which is really my robot mower wire, it's been cut at least 15 times. I've had to repair that thing. And it's all from me digging with a shovel, or my neighbor digging with a shovel, or my neighbor put in cable, or they put in fiber optic and they tore it out or put it in, or whatever the case is. And so they're constantly crossing lines. And what he's saying is Arkansas passed a law that if you punch any hole in the soil at all and you break something or damage something, you're liable for that repair. That is unfortunate. My neighbor across the street just put in a privacy fence, and he had these big augers out there putting in these posts and concrete. Man, the next day, and there was 2 or 3 trucks there. Next day, there's like 3 or 4 trucks. And the next day, there was 6 trucks. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Well, they hit all sorts of utilities. Even after they had it marked, they hit all sorts of utilities. So it happens. If you're going to aerify physically, punch holes in the ground with a hydraulic aerator or a camshaft-driven aerator, you're going to break whatever's in the top 3 inches. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to tear it all to heck. So I do feel sorry for him. So there is a problem. In this case, it is a legitimate issue. Nothing you can do. I mean, he's not going to, as a company, probably take on that liability. I can understand that.
We are fined, not only liable for the repair, we are additionally fined $25 or $2,500 per offense.
Whoa.
It gets worse.
Wow.
Not only are we fined and have to pay for the repair, it's an escalating deal. So the first offense is $2,500, the next is $5,000, and the next is $10,000 per additional offense.
Wow.
Within 1 year. Guys, that's just not realistic. It's not realistic from a scheduling standpoint. It's not realistic from it's just not logistically possible. It's not the liability risk is not worth it. We can't legally even have you sign a waiver to pass liability, and for you to accept liability, that's actually illegal and won't be honored.
Well, good for him for learning that or figuring that out. I do feel sorry for him and anybody else in Arkansas that's having to do this. That sucks. And if you don't want to deal with this sort of nonsense from your legislation, man, follow BMPs. I know some legislatures pass laws that just make no sense, but in some states they're doing this because it's perceived that we're the bad guy. We're the boogeyman. The lawn care industry or the golf courses or saw production or whatever, agriculture in general, we're perceived that way, whether we are or whether we're not. So I'm pretty convinced that we can minimize some of this unnecessary government oversight if we can follow BMPs, show them we're following BMPs, show them the BMPs do reduce these risks of all this happening. I do feel sorry for him. That's really unfortunate. By the way, if you're on TikTok asking questions, I will answer your questions. I try to answer the members' questions first through YouTube first, just so you know. If you're on TikTok, you're probably watching this for the first time. I will get to your questions on TikTok. It might be mid of the stream, might be at the end of the stream, but I'll try to get to the members who are sponsoring the show on YouTube before I get to other people. But anyway, I'm just letting you know I am watching TikTok, and there are some questions, and I will get to those when I do have time.
Guys, it just rules out mechanical aeration and core aeration, which I strongly believe in is the best way to aerate your ground.
Yeah, no, it is. Now he's using I don't know if that's him. He's showing a video of a guy using it. Looks like a spoon aerifier. This is not the way to do it. Spoon aerification gives the perception of alleviating compaction. We've shown an article on that doesn't really do much of anything. There's, whenever it's hard to actually be convinced that that's true, because when you aerify, you have all these plugs laying on top of your grass. There's hundreds of plugs laying out there, and you're like, well, man, that's a lot of damage. I really did a lot of work. But when you do the math, you're only doing about maybe 3 to 5% of your lawn in one pass, depending on the size of the tine and the spacing and so forth. But you're not doing really much at all to the lawn. And there's good evidence in the literature to show that to really make a meaningful impact, you got to get up to about 15% of your lawn affected by the aerification. So if you're doing, 3 or 4 passes on a hollow tine aerifier, then, and in fact you did have compaction as the problem to begin with, then I would go ahead and say, hey, yeah, that might be useful. Most people's lawns are not compacted to the point that they're actually seeing unacceptable turf because of compaction. I'm not saying you're not, but it's not normally the case. But if you're going to have a problem, or if there is a problem and you want to aerify it, this here on the screen is not the way to do it. This little spoon aerifier. You got to get in there with a serious machine and start really punching holes in the ground to make a difference. Let's check out the bingo card. Got 2 people, Seb Mess and Mia McLean, said liquid aeration. So what happens on my screen, members, is that whenever you select one of the squares, the first person that's selected is the first person that pops up. And so it was me and my McLean that got it, and you'll see me and my McLean's names in that square right now. So Seb Mess got it too, but a little bit late on the trigger, Seb Mess. Last week, or was it last week? Seb Mess got dang near the whole board. So I appreciate you guys participating. My efforts apparently were worth the time. Let's continue.
If you have compaction issues, if you have things like that, it's second to none. We just
see. Let me pause that. How do I pause that? Can I pause it? See right here on the screen. You see the holes that are punched. It looks, you're like, man, Travis, what are you talking about? There's a lot of holes in the ground there. It's really not. If you do the math on it and the area of this hole, and then the area of that hole, you do the math on all the area of all these holes relative to the area of the entire turf, it's not much at all. It's about 5%. It's very deceptive. It's hard to actually comprehend until you run the math on it. It's easy to do. You got a 1/4 inch tine and do the area of that 1/4 inch tine, and then you do the spacing on the tines and you run the math on it. You're like, holy cow, that's really not that much. So that's what I mean. It's just you're not really doing as much as you might think you are.
Unfortunately, we have the machines, we have everything, we had everything lined up, and this new law got passed.
Now I can't quite see in this. can't quite see from this angle. That might not be a spoon aerifier. Can't quite tell. If it's not, then I take my words back. Usually these rental places just rent the open spoon aerifier. That might be a hollow time with this punch, and I can't quite tell.
And we're kind of heartbroken about it. We're trying to turn this into a blessing in disguise. So what we've done, we've been pretty creative. We found a way to bring a similar benefit in a different way. So I'll try to do my best to explain why we're switching to liquid aeration and what that is. So,
okay, well, I'm waiting. I'm definitely waiting for you to explain because I have a whole lot of evidence on my side that says it's not going to do jack squat.
Liquid aeration is going to be, it's going to be a wetting agent. It's going to be, it's kind of like a product like the Moisture Manager that we've talked about before. It's going to help water and moisture move through the soil profile more evenly and penetrate the layers of soil, even in compact soil. It does help loosen up the soil. It's
no. Okay, until then he was correct. Yeah, until that last part, what he's saying is there's a wetting agent in it, and it's going to help distribute the moisture uniformly. It's going to penetrate the surface of the soil where it might be hydrophobic, or if it might be compacted, it might be difficult to penetrate that compacted soil, just regular water, tap water. And then because the liquid aeration has a surfactant in it or a wetting agent in it, it'll move into that soil much more easy. And all that's true. But when he says it's going to help loosen up the soil, that's complete hogwash. That's what I'm saying. That's where they like to smuggle in the misinformation. Little bit of truth makes the lie seem much more plausible.
Core aeration, but it makes a huge difference for soil that just is unwilling to accept moisture.
The wetting agent does. Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But it's not going to do anything for the compaction. Nothing.
The other part of that mixture is going to be a biological. It's going to be the organic product that you're all familiar with. We spray it on the properties during the liquid rounds. So you're probably asking yourself, well, don't I get that in every round? Haven't we talked about this before? Isn't liquid aeration just part of the process? And you're not wrong that the biologicals and the organics and the humic and all the things and the carbon-rich product, that's absolutely part of every single liquid round. The wetting agent, the Moisture Manager product is also part of every single liquid round. So what's the difference? What is this? Why are we calling this liquid aeration? Well, because the organic product is 3 times more concentrated and the wetting agent is 2 times more concentrated.
So what? Who cares? 100 times more concentrated. What do I care? It doesn't make any difference. What I want to know is, one, does it result in a better looking turf? Because what happens, we've already cleverly switched topics. So what you really care about is your lawn and your turf and the color and the density and the playability, whatever the case is. If you're a sport turf or you're in golf or homeowner, whatever your interests are, your interests aren't compacted soil. They've diverted your attention from what your real interests are, which is your lawn quality, to compacted soil, which is really a non sequitur. I mean, compacted soil can be a problem, but now they're talking about alleviating compaction, and this product is going to do all these magical things for compaction. I don't really care what the concentration of the product is. It doesn't make any difference. Did it result in a better looking lawn or did it not? It's basically that simple. It's not complicated. Now, they're going to argue that it's going to alleviate compaction. And what I'm saying is the physics involved don't work. There are no plausible explanations for liquid aeration loosening the soil. There's no plausible mechanism in the product. They're going to say it goes down deep and it breaks bonds or whatever they've said online before. All that's just made up. What happens with compacted soil is the actual clay and sand and silt have been compressed into a smaller volume. And there is no way to alleviate that other than physically removing that compressed soil and replacing it with a less compacted soil. And we're talking about physical compaction. Chemical compaction that exists in sodic soils is a totally different thing. But even in those situations, a liquid aeration isn't going to do anything. Okay.
Because this is a dedicated treatment, we tripled and doubled down on the active ingredients to be a lot more aggressive in our approach, because that is what we're there for. That's what we're focused on, is the maximum labeled amount that we can do without overlapping with other treatments and get you guys maximum benefit for your dollar.
Well, if that's the argument you're going to make, I wish I knew this guy's name. Does he have his name in the? I don't know his name. Maximum benefit for the dollar. The best thing you can do is don't do anything with liquid aeration. In other words, the issue is I can't mechanically aerify, Dr. Shaddox. I can't do it, so I got to do something else. Well, that's the flaw. There is nothing else. There is no other option. What you're doing is you're deceiving your customers by telling them, well, we can't do this. It's the law. Okay, I got it. I mean, nothing you can do about that. Campaign your local legislature and have the law change. That's all you can do. So now we can't physically aerify. So now we're going to go to the next best option, which is liquid aerification. That is not the next best option. The next best option is to just manage the person's expectations and say, hey, I can't fix your lawn because the law says I can't do it. And if I do it and I break something, I'm in big trouble. I might lose my company. So I can't do it. Maybe the best thing to do is to tell the homeowner, I am legally restricted from doing it, but you can do it. You can go rent an aerifier, or you can get some physical machine and do it yourself. And then if they break something, then it's up to them. But if the next best option has no plausible mechanism, then there is no other option. And I apologize for this particular gentleman as a scientist, for failing to get out in front of this issue and communicate more fervently and just more aggressively in the past. I didn't do that, and I fear that my failure in the past has probably resulted in people like this gentleman being convinced of this nonsense. So I do apologize if I played a role in the lack of education of these people. But now I'm doing my best. And what this gentleman can do is say, hey, you know what? Sucks, man. I can't do anything about the law. But Mr. Homeowner, Mrs. Homeowner, I also can't put my company's future at risk by renting an aerifier, aerifying it myself. But you can do it. And if you break something or you damage something, then you're liable for that, and I'll let you know you're liable, but I can't put my company at risk. But what you are doing is you're putting your reputation at risk by selling a con. That's what this gentleman's doing. He doesn't know it, but he's selling a con. He's been conned himself. I think this gentleman's a victim. He's been conned himself, and now he's perpetuating that con onto his customers. So unfortunately, it's sort of like a, what's that law in New York that they passed in the 80s? The Racketeering Act, where they couldn't go after everybody in the mob, and then they passed a law. Now they can go after everybody. And that same thing here. You're part of the con now, unfortunately, sir. I really am truly, sincerely feel sorry for you. I really do. But you can stop it. You can stop it now and cut off that contribution that you're making to contamination and spreading of misinformation in the lawn care industry. And you really are scamming your customers. I know you don't think you are, but you really are scamming your customers. So you can just stop it and say, hey, you can do it. I can't do it. That's the only option we have is physical aeration. There is nothing else. That's the solution I would give you.
It absolutely does help. It's just the tool we're left with in the tool belt, but I'm honestly really excited about it. For one, the wetting agents work, especially when you go max label rate.
They do. There's no question. If you want to do a wetting agent, then you don't need to buy the liquid aeration. Just buy the wetting agent. Just go buy some Aqua8 or Lesco Wet. Those are generally the two least expensive wetting agents in the turf industry. It may not be the case in every case, but generally those are going to be the two least expensive. And give or take, you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of one of those types of products. It's just an entry-level wetting agent. Just go to get that. You'll save a ton of money.
And repeat apply. So this is going to help. The other side of this is that organic product being 3X in this mix is going to triple the amount of soil building goodness on your property that we're able to put out in a season. So that is 3 times, if you're on this new liquid aeration, 3 times the amount of liquid organics, humic acid, microbial life, the food to sustain that microbial life is 3 times the amount that you would normally get.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really am. I'm so sorry this gentleman is totally deceived. But we went over this on, I guess it was yesterday. There's a gentleman in Washington State. I think it's an extension agent. I apologize to Andrew if he's a professor. I don't know him. But I believe his name's Andrew McGuire, and he has a wonderful extension article in Washington State University about stop worrying about your microbes, basically. And I agree 100%, and the evidence and the literature will support that. The microbes are always there. If the population ever declines, they'll come right back. In the presence of healthy turf grass, of moisture and the adequate resources and the proper environment, they're going to grow there. You don't have to go out and throw out extra microbe food or anything else to help your microbes in your soil, organic matter, whatever. The turf grass itself will take care of that on its own. It exudes carbon through the roots. Microbes will feed off of that, A-OK. Whenever we've gone out and measured this stuff, the benefits are almost zero to adding all this stuff in there. The benefits relative to the money you spend are extremely low, very, very low. You just apply a little bit of nitrogen, give the plant adequate water, optimum water, make sure it's in the right light and the right temperature. You minimize the damage from your mower and these sorts of things. The plant will grow. I have tomato plants out here. I'll probably take a picture or tomorrow or whenever. They're freaking like 5-6 foot tall. They're huge, coming out the top of these cones that I have, these frames that I have. And it looks, man, you look at those, like, man, those are the most healthy tomato plants on the planet. What'd you give them? Nothing. Gave them nothing. I just put them in the right spot. I made sure the water was optimized. The sunlight was adequate for that particular plant. I waited until the temperature got up here in Kentucky. I don't expect tomatoes to be grown here in February. And the same thing goes with turf. Okay? That's what you can do to minimize this flaw you're falling into, and your turf will look just fine.
In a year, that's going to go out in one application, and then it's going to be done again. So guys, this is going to be an exponential increase in organic matter. So that's always a good thing. You know me, I love that. So we're just taking this as a blessing and an opportunity to do more of what we know works. So,
well, you don't know it works. This is epistemology. How do you know what you know? You don't know it works. He's convinced it works. He has no choice about his belief. He can't choose his belief, and neither can you. He's been convinced. That's why he believes it. Definition of belief, a state of being convinced. So he's been convinced, unfortunately, by misinformation, probably given to him by a couple people that I'll leave off now because I don't know. I have no idea where he got the information from. But he's been convinced. And what I'm saying to what I said earlier with regards to my culpability in this whole thing, and what I mean by that is on a larger scale, the scholars, I think we're culpable because if we had been in front of this and we had convinced them to begin with, it would be much more challenging for a salesman or a con man to come in behind us and reconvince them that they should use liquid aeration. And I think that's where we have failed. I'll say that's where I have failed as a scholar in the past, is I just haven't put enough time in to extending the information, the research information to the end users, meeting them where they are. Because I think doing that, we would be the first person, as I used to go fishing when I was a kid, we'd be the first one to the hole. And the first one to the hole gets the hog. And we'd be the first person there. And then after that, they're convinced for good reasons. And the management practices that they follow after that hopefully would also be for good reasons. But now we weren't there. This gentleman on the screen is convinced for bad reasons, and it's going to be very difficult to reconvince him otherwise.
It's going to be a two-step process instead of a one. The good news is now, because it's not a new machine, heavy equipment, and this whole new process that has specific training, we have to pull a trailer, all the things, it's no longer disruptive to our normal process. So we're going to now be able, like never before, be able to actually offer liquid aeration to every single client. Before we were limited. We could only do kind of maybe 20% of our clients, and we had to turn people down that actually needed aeration but just couldn't logistically get to them. This new version, we can get to everybody. So that's good. We can actually give this
you can spread the nonsense to everybody. Doesn't mean it's good. Just because you can spread it faster doesn't mean it's good. You have to remember, science does not move at the speed of BS. Much slower. BS moves lightning fast. And just because you can do it all in every customer, sir, does not mean it's the right thing.
People that need it, it will help with compaction. It will address issues. I will say it again. Core aeration is king. But because of the new laws, because of the fines, because of the liabilities, it's no longer doable. It's no longer an option. I wish it was, but it's not.
Got it.
So we're just making the best out of it.
Yeah, well, the middle ground fallacy is what you're falling into. Well, we can't do this, so we must do something else, and something else is this. Well, if the second option has no plausibility, then there's no point in doing it.
The first application of this stuff is going to go out in May, so it's coming up quick. The second application is going to go out in August. So therein lies another massive benefit is this product, this new mix is going to be applied to your lawn during the arguably the two most critical times a year. May, just as your grass is fully exited dormancy, it is critical that it is fed, protected, and thriving in preparation for the stressful summer months ahead. By applying this stuff in May, you're giving your lawn the best possible chance. On the flip side, in August, the wetting agent at 2x the normal rate, the organics at 3x the normal rate, is going to soothe your lawn. It's going to help your lawn recover from the summer stress and just deal with it so much better. It's going to help your lawn retain moisture.
Okay, well, he's in Arkansas, which is very different than Kentucky. But if I don't do any of that, and I have my lawn is a quality of 8 or 9, then what? You're just saying this stuff, so I can just say the opposite. How do we know who's correct? How do we know what we know? That's epistemology. And what I'm getting at is the best reliance, or the most reliance we can have, is management practices that have been properly vetted through the scientific method. And when we do that, you can go look up Dr. Henry from Georgia, and his publication, and I believe it's in Crop Science, might be Agronomy Journal, can't remember, shows it doesn't do anything. This gentleman's saying do it, and it's going to help do all these magical things. I'm saying I don't do any of it, and my lawn can't get much better. It's the 1st of August. Now, granted, it's been cool and wet here. It's been ideal for cool season grasses to grow this particular year for some reason. But I don't do any of that. My lawn can't get much better. So who's correct?
To help moisture proliferate through the soil profile. So if you have maybe some irrigation hot spots or some shortcomings there, this can make a huge difference.
Wetting agents will do that. And we're going over wetting agents for the foreseeable future. I pulled up all the wetting agent articles. This is the new topic for the show. My wife's like, how are you going to go over that many articles? And I'm like, I don't know. There's like 50 articles. See, maybe more. I don't know how I'm going to go over all these articles. I usually do 2 a week. I can't do it for 6 months. I may have to do a couple more shows a week or something. I don't know. But wetting agents will do that, yes.
Again, not a perfect solution, but by doing this twice, this is going to be massively impactful, even though it's not core aeration.
It'll help moisture penetration just from the wetting agent, but that's it.
I kind of left out the best part.
Oh, good.
The best part is you're going to get both of these applications for far less than a core aeration, than a single core aeration. You're going to get both 2 applications. The applications, because we're going to be able to apply these during normal rounds, the price is going to be even lower than it would have otherwise been. Because
would it be lower than if I didn't do it at all? Because the response is going to be the same. Add in a wetting, and take that back. Add in a wetting agent, which is going to be a fraction of the cost of liquid aeration. A fraction, probably 5% or 10% of the cost of liquid aeration will just be the wetting agent. Just do that. And then compare. It doesn't matter how much, it's going to be less expensive than what we're doing now. Well, what would it be if I just use a wetting agent? Even less than that. And at least then you would have, I don't really think you're going to have a whole lot of a visual response from just a wetting agent, unless indeed you do have hydrophobic soils. But at least there's some evidence to support their use. Whereas with liquid aeration, there's absolutely bupkis. There's nothing. There's evidence to not support it. There's refuting evidence to it. See?
There's no drive time. There's no more time accounted for rescheduling and office work and all the background stuff that we have to include in the price of treatments is not included in this treatment because we're already there doing your May application. We're already there doing your August application. So not only were we able to get this product down to a price by using it in bulk where it's cheap, it's actually going to cost far less than a normal lawn treatment, which is crazy. We were able to do this because of how we're doing it. We were able to find savings. We want you guys to try this. We want you guys to see that it can benefit your lawn. And while it's unfortunate we can't correlate anymore, this is a very viable solution. It's an awesome solution. I encourage everybody to go ahead and give it a try.
Definitely
especially
don't.
at these prices. So
no, it doesn't matter whether it costs a penny. Don't do it. It's a wasted penny.
I mean, we're talking maybe 15 to 20% less than a normal lawn treatment per application, cumulatively far less than a core aeration. But guys, we're excited.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's less. That's what I've said before. That's the end of the video. He goes on and says we're excited, and it's the end of the video. It doesn't matter, sir. I mean, I do genuinely think that you are sincere in your interest in providing a better product to your customers. You certainly come across as being sincere. I do believe that. I will say this: whoever convinced you of that, which I don't know, but I'll just say it might be JP, for example, perhaps, I don't know. But if it was, let me say this directly. You are being scammed, Natural State Horticare. You have been scammed by one of the best con men in the industry. And everybody else that's been scammed and conned into using liquid aeration and selling liquid aeration, unfortunately, you are a victim. The best thing you can do is cut it off. Say, you know what? We just threw a ton of money at this product. Now we realize it's not doing jack squat. Cut it off. Stop supporting those people. Hopefully they go away, which they won't. They've been around for 100 years. People like that. And follow best management practices that are generated from the state of Arkansas. The state of Arkansas has two of the best professors on the planet in turfgrass science. And they had one before the one they got now. He went to Ohio. And one of the best wedding agent guys used to be in Arkansas. We still have one in Arkansas, but he wouldn't be a chair at Ohio State. But they're extremely good. They would be happy to help you with this, sir. All you got to do is call Arkansas Extension. Go to the University of Arkansas, look up the turfgrass science. There's two professors there that are wonderful professors. And I feel very confident that they would tell you, probably more politely and more politically correctly, the exact same thing that I just told you now. And that is, unfortunately, there's no evidence to support it. The best thing you can do is just have the homeowner say, if you want to do it yourself. But I can't do it because I can't put my company on the line. But going back to an option that has no plausibility is not the solution. Okay. Let me go to some questions and see if I can get, don't know if I can do all this. I got so many screens open. Let me see if I can go to a question or two from YouTube first and start with some member questions. Chuck Benzing, I have some music for you tonight. Chuck Benzing says, good evening, just getting caught up with all the streams that Dr. Shaddox has been putting out. Yeah. I have some music tonight for my music aficionado, Chuck. Welcome, Andrew, again. You said you've been a while since you got here and watched the show live. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, and wedding agents. So I don't know if I can go over all the wedding agent. Andrew says he's enjoying a wedding agent series. I don't know if I can go over it all. There's so much, but I'm going to do my best. My kids go back to school next week, so I'm seriously thinking about maybe adding a show during the week or something to see if I can knock them out before Thanksgiving. But I mean, I'd be here for 6 months doing it 2 times a week. And I add shows like this in there that delay it another week or two, and it might take me forever to get to the wedding agent, but I'll get through it. I have them listed and I have them ordered by date, and there's a lot. Hello, Ninos. Good to see you here. Let me see. It says, here's a question from Garden Earth Guy. Okay, I haven't seen Garden Earth Guy here in a little while. He says, spraying hydrogen peroxide on your lawn. That's liquid aeration? I mean, it does sound convincing, the hydrogen peroxide. What I would say about that is, especially if you're a lawn care operator, I would not be carrying around an unnecessary oxidizer in a truck. I'm just saying. I don't know any evidence to support it. I don't know any evidence to refute the hydrogen peroxide in terms of breakdown of thatch or organic material. I don't know enough about that. But I'd be real careful with that before I threw 200 gallons of it in my truck and started driving down the road. Yeah, I said, Chuck Thomas says, oh no, he's using H2O maximizer. Am I spending too much money? I don't know how much H2O optimizer costs. The best thing you can do on try to figure out the cost of these products, because all the wetting agents for the most part will perform the same function. They will allow water to penetrate hydrophobic soils, some compacted soils as well. They will help distribute moisture uniformly within the soil. The only difference really is the chemistry and the rate might change the reapplication interval. So what you can do is just get the cost of these lower end products and the cost of H2O maximizer, I don't even know what that is, and see what the cost is per 1,000 square feet or something, or per acre, and see where it runs you. Now, the disadvantage to buying something like Aquaid or something, a professional product, you might have to buy 2.5 gallons of it. And on a 5,000 square foot lawn, that might only last you 10 years. I don't know, but that might be the disadvantage. You may just decide to go and buy a quart of Let's Go Wet or something rather than 2.5 gallons. So there may be a logistical limit there. Seed to Stripes asks, what do I think of the brand Lawn Life product, Even Flow? It's a wetting agent. He has a YouTube video on it, pretty informative. It's just hard to tell if it works. So I don't know anything about the Lawn Life brand. I don't know anything about the Even Flow product. I don't know anything about it. If it is a wetting agent, then it will work. I'm telling you. I suppose it's possible there's a wetting agent that doesn't work, but I've never seen one. I guess that's possible. But by definition, if it's a wetting agent, it's a surfactant, and it's going to reduce the surface tension of water, and it's going to help. The only difference is going to be how much you've got to apply per 1,000 square feet based upon the chemistry and the formulation of the wetting agent. So they should all be A-okay. The only difference isn't, like I said, cost. So I don't know that product or that brand, but I would have little doubt that it would perform as a wetting agent. If that's the way it is labeled and it has the active ingredient on there, it should do it. Oh, Me and My McLean says, did I get the iron application video I sent you? Yeah, I got the video. I hadn't had a chance to look at it, but yeah, I did see the email. I'm working on it. I did see an email, I believe it was from you, that had to do with, you had it outside and you sprayed it over some artificial grass. I saw that one. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but I did see you sent me another one. I'll look at that soon. And do I have I think you said option, but an opinion on command or Veranza soil amendments? Well, I have an opinion, but opinions are like, well, my grandpa used to say a different word, but I'll say opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody has one, and they're all dirty. But my grandfather was from Northwest Arkansas. He would say it a little different. I'm not an organic compost sort of specialist, but there is a gentleman at University of Florida who's done a lot of work with command compost. His name's Dr. Evan Bean. I would look him up. I would say that I would be real careful about reading the literature on some of the compost, because oftentimes the literature on compost is looking at turf response and moisture and things like that, which is all very important. But they're neglecting the contribution from the compost in the world of nitrogen and phosphorus. So you have to be real careful about how you read some of the work, because they might say, oh, this is great. It shows a great turf response, but they're adding in 5 pounds of nitrogen with the compost. So I'm like, well, wait a second. Is it from the compost or is it from the nitrogen? So I'd be real careful with that. Having said that, in some soils that are high sand, low organic matter, sort of inert soils, then clearly the addition of organic material can be beneficial. I mean, look at USGA Spec Greens. They've been doing it for years, decades. So I don't know. I can't really just speak to the difference between these two particular ones, but in the right condition and the right soil, they may be beneficial. I personally wouldn't use it except under very specific situations, just because it'd be too expensive relative to the alternative, and that's just normal management of turf. Normal blocking and tackling of turf grass is probably going to get you where you want to go without having to buy all that expensive stuff, but that's my take on it. Oh yeah, no problem, Ashanti. Yeah, I changed the show to 8 o'clock. So yeah, 8 o'clock Eastern, which is 7 o'clock Central. Yeah, you're here. I'm going to go for quite a bit longer. It's a long show today. Let's see. Joe Callis says, Lawn Life Even flow is $90 and covers 32,000 square feet. So that does sound pretty expensive relative to products like Lesco Wet and AquaAid. But I'd have to run the math on it. Yeah. But just like I said before, I don't have a problem with any of the product prices on any of the product. I mean, whatever. I'll provide the evidence on which one is the least expensive or most useful to you. But these guys and manufacturers and distributors can put the price wherever they want. That's capitalism, and it'll go up or down based on how much they sell and how much they're good with the margin. That's all. Yeah, I might do that, Andrew Burris. He says you should break up the Wedding Agent series as part 1 and part 2 and revisit it again over the winter so you can cover it more thoroughly. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. There's just so much. I'm like, wow. Even I get a little bit, ran out of energy at some point. But yeah, I might do that. It's the same thing with like soil testing and even like diseases. I only went over it for like 2 or 3 months and I barely even scratched the surface of some of that stuff. So I'll probably go back and put it in the rotation and then maybe come back to do Wedding Agent in the second run or something. But I haven't even started Wedding Agents really. I've only done 2 or 3 episodes. So we're barely getting started, but I'll probably go up into like the 80s and then stop and then come back into the newer research later. Oh, Sebmes says Even Flow is from a gentleman named Jesse. I think he did a video on product he sells called Neighbors. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, okay. Well, then I do know Lawn Life. Yeah. So I guess that's his Wedding Agent then. I don't particularly have any one way or the other on the Wedding Agent. If it's a Wedding Agent, it's probably going to work. Chuck Benzing says, Arkansas University ran a field trial research experiment on multitude of Wedding Agents. Did they publish the results? Yeah, they. I don't know if they published it in a refereed paper. They probably did. But they definitely published it in the one of the USGA or the GCSAA journals, and I'll go over that. And basically, what it shows is sometimes this particular chemistry shows more positive results than. So let's say chemistry A shows better results than chemistry B sometimes, and then sometimes chemistry B shows better than chemistry A, and for the most part, they're all the same. That's what it shows basically. The biggest difference is the price. Okay, let's get back to the comments. Okay, this is an intro. Okay, liquid area. Okay, next one, Facebook comments. Now, I can't figure out how to get this Facebook comment on the actual comments, like on Facebook, so I'm just going to read it. I have people send me stuff occasionally, and this one was from T to Green Bentgrass. And I don't know how, like I said, I'm doing my best to read it, but I took a screenshot of it. And it says, silicon isn't an essential nutrient for bentgrass, but it's becoming one of the more valuable tools for handling summer stress. It strengthens cells walls, supports root health, and helps turf tolerate heat, drought, and traffic when the program starts before decline, not after. So we have strengthens cell walls, 1 claim, supports root health, 2 claims, helps turf tolerate heat, 3 claims, drought, 4 claims, and traffic when the program starts. So that's 5 claims in 1 sentence. And it's okay to make claims. You can turn those into hypotheses. But what happens with marketing and sales is they'll say it as a conclusion. It does this. And really what those are is hypotheses. They're not a conclusion because we don't know much of anything about this at all. There's certainly not much evidence at all to support the use of silicon in turf grass. There is a tiny bit from a lady named Beth Gertall, and I know Datnoff did some work on it, but at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot of confidence I have in using silicon in turf grass. But let's see what else T to Green Bentgrass has to say. Field research shows turf quality gains 6 to 10% and root biomass increases up to 33% with preventative use. Potassium silicate and stabilized monosilicic acid are the 2 most practical sources to build a program around. And then he goes through this and shows all this silliness, benefits of silicon on bentgrass. This is all just marketing nonsense. I don't believe any of this stuff, by the way. You might, if you're new to the channel, you haven't watched much of it, or you're watching on TikTok and you haven't got, this is the first you've seen it. You might be going, why are you saying, Dr. Shaddox? Why don't you believe this graph? Because I can just make this up. I'm not saying they did, but I'm saying I could, and I'm saying I've seen it done before. Unless it's in a refereed journal, I don't really have much confidence in it at all. I don't have much confidence in peer-reviewed papers because peer-reviewed can't be rejected. So they can put whatever they want in there. They can't be rejected anyway, but refereed papers can be rejected. And so I have a lot more confidence in those refereed papers. And when you look at the refereed papers, what basically you'll find is occasionally you might see a little bit slice of information with silicon, but the quantity that you have to apply is so astronomically high, it's asinine to even consider. It's literally like a ton of, I mean, it's insane how high you have to apply these products to get a benefit from silicon. So I wouldn't be going out and throwing a bunch of stuff at silicon from tea to green bent grass, thinking it's going to magically turn my poor turf back green again. That is not a very wise choice in my humble opinion. I wouldn't be doing that. That comes up a lot though. Silicon. It came up years ago where they were like, oh, we're going to apply silicon to our putting greens. It's going to make it lightning fast. It's going to make the leaves more rigid, and it's going to make the ball roll faster. And I believe it was Dr. Michael Woods who brought up a great point one time. He was like, well, if that's the case, why isn't zoysia grass lightning fast all the time? Because zoysia grass is very stiff. That's a brilliant point. It's a brilliant point. It's great. So it's not going to do squat to the putting green speeds. The chance of silicon resulting in any sort of meaningful, measurable benefit is pretty low. Pretty low, especially if you've followed the water, light, temperature, injury, and then fertile soil pyramid. You check off all these major contributing factors to turfgrass health first. Chances are you're not going to see much. But Tea to Green thinks you are. It has five things here. I keep hitting the wrong button. How do I do this? Okay. Now, I don't remember where I got this. I do know someone sent this to me as a screenshot because I'm not a member of this particular Facebook group. And honestly, I haven't read it since like months ago, so I don't even remember what it's about. But let's read through this and see what Brad Anas, I don't know, has to say. I don't remember what Facebook group this is. It's super long, but let me try to see if I can get through it. I'm kind of reluctant to post this, but I know a lot of you folks are in other groups, and I know a lot of you are seeing a lot of posts about nitrogen-only lawns and using only urea or ammonium sulfate. Can I, by the way, can I take credit for that, by the way? Is that something that I can actually take credit for, that a lot of people are moving more towards urea and just ammonium sulfate? I mean, I don't want to be too arrogant or egotistical, but I didn't come across that a whole lot before I started talking about it on the show. This is 2 or 3 years ago. Showing all the literature showing that really just urea is probably fine. If you're short on sulfur, maybe ammonium sulfate. And now we see this a lot where people are talking about everybody's using just nitrogen, urea, ammonium sulfate. But you know why they don't want you to do that? Because it's a commodity. They're not going to make much money on people that are buying just urea and ammonium sulfate. They have to buy all the other stuff, the magical brown dirt water that they can make 70, 80 points on. Just so you know, I used to be in sales. Urea and ammonium sulfate, if you're making 10 points, your margin is 10% on ammonium sulfate and urea, you are killing it at 10%. That's nothing. I mean, you can't make a living on 8 or 9, 10% margin on selling fertilizer. You're not going to do it. The other stuff, the polymer coats and the humic coated stuff and all the stuff, they might be making 30 or 40 points. And the liquid magic brown dirt water, they might be making 70 or 80 points on that stuff. So that's why they want you to move away from nitrogen, urea, and ammonium sulfate. I'm not saying that's all you need, but I'm saying it's a massive percentage of what you need will be resolved with just those two products. And he says, let me explain my approach to you newer folks in this group and why I do the things I do. I'm in North Carolina. It gets extremely hot and humid here. My average humidity is around 85% from June through September. Most of my followers are in the transition zone in mid-Atlantic states, also hot and humid. By the way, I don't know where he's going to go with this. It's not going to hold much water if that's his argument, because I did this in Florida, did this in Oklahoma, did this in Kentucky, okay? All over the place, and it still works. Here's my take on this nitrogen-only deal. If you want to see a visual response in turf, nitrogen is the answer, and add some iron add some iron in water and sun, you're going to see a response. Okay, well, yeah, I agree with that. Basically, everything in my program is foliar applied. Yes, there are some fertilizers I use that has small amounts of P and K. If you do a soil test and you have low amounts of either, that doesn't mean you have a deficiency. That's true. It just means you're low from guidelines on a soil test. Now, is it all usable in the soil? That's debatable. Well, by the way, this whole is the nitrogen or is the P and K on a soil test usable by the plant is a bunch of nonsense. Okay, it's ridiculous. A soil test is a nutrient index. Okay, we're going to extract nutrients out of the soil, and then we're going to compare that with what we're going to predict to see in the turf. In other words, did we see a turf response at 10 parts per million phosphorus, or 5 parts per million phosphorus, or 20 parts per million phosphorus, or whatever the case is? We're going to figure out where the critical limit is, and that's an index. And if you want more information on this, Dr. Micah Woods put out a video, I don't know, a week or two ago on his channel. I wish I would give him a plug. I don't know his channel. It's Micah Woods Turf or Micah something Turf. Or you can probably go to AsianTurfgrass.com or something like that. And he has the most recent video. He talks all about this. And for the most part, he's spot on. So this whole thing is, well, are they available? Are they plant available? The nutrients on that test plant available? It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is we're generating an index and providing a level of confidence as to whether or not the turf grass has enough nutrient in the soil that it can harvest from the soil or not. If it doesn't have enough, we're going to supplement that by applying it. That's what soil tests essentially do. Okay, do you need to add in those other nutrients? I don't know. I mean, if your soil isn't locked up, it's definitely using some potassium, phosphorus. Is about the only thing that really doesn't move within the soil. Yeah, anytime someone's going to use the phrase locked up, that's a pretty key sign of someone doesn't know what they're talking about, but I'll continue. If you have a low CEC soil, you're not holding on to those nutrients other than phosphorus, sandy soil, lower on organic matter. There's a lot of variables that could actually make it not all usable to the plant. So are you benefiting by adding small amounts of foliar that's available versus not adding any? That's debatable also in my opinion. I'm not sure where this guy is. He's all over the place. But if you're seeing a true deficiency, then it's probably time to add some to the actual soil. In that case, well, definitely. Yeah, no, if you're seeing a deficiency, then if you can properly identify it, and it's not a genetic anomaly in the plant, in other words, the plant itself is not genetically, has a genetic proclivity for being purple. Like there's some Bahia grasses that are naturally purple. There's purple fountain grasses that are naturally purple. So as long as it's not a genetic trait, then if you're seeing a deficiency, then yeah, you need to apply some. I'd add a small amount to the soil from a granular fertilizer going to harm you. Man, I don't know what this guy's English going to harm you. No, is it going to pee off the nitrogen only crowd? Absolutely. I don't know where he's going. I can't hardly read this. As far as the nitrogen source goes, yes, you're going to see a great response from urea or ammonium sulfate, and it's going to be cheap. I agree with that. Now, this is where it gets tricky for folks in a hot, humid climate. While those two nitrogen sources will give a great response and are cheap, they're also fast-releasing, causing growth surges. That's probably true. New lush growth causes excess moisture in the leaf tissue, factor in high humidity. And hot, you're adding disease pressure. But those products, especially newer folks that aren't really dialed in and spraying and add in the heat, and you're looking at burned turf. Well, anytime you're going to be applying soluble nitrogen to turf, there is a risk of burning it if you're not going to water it in. That is true. In that case, you can just slow release it, I guess, if you want to, or just lower the rate. You lower your risk of burn. But watering it in is critical. There's no doubt. That is true. My approach for the liquids is in the early spring, I used a 10-4. It's mainly nitrate, ammonium sulfate with a small amount of urea. Coming mid-spring, I use an 18-3-4. It has a small amount of nitrate and ammonium sulfate with more urea. Urea has to convert to a usable source before it can be used. Nitrate is what's used by most and the quickest, and it works well in cool weather, better than even AMS. Most of that I'm not going to argue with. For mid-spring to summer applications, I'm looking at reducing lush top growth. I do this by applying slow-release fertilizers, 2900 and 1836. Both are 50% slow release, so there is some fast release in there, nitrate, ammonium sulfate, urea, but also 50% of this is slow release. There's not really, hate to burst your bubble, sir, but there's not really a slow-release liquid. I know they have trizone rings and they have Coron and all these other things. They say they're slow release. We're talking about the difference of maybe 1 day or 2 days. That's not really a slow release. But what they can do, potentially do at least, is the slow, quote unquote, slow release liquids can help reduce the chances or the risk of burning the turf. That's probably true. I wouldn't put a whole lot of confidence in that, but that's probably the case. But in terms of like having greater longevity because you have 50% slow release liquid, I wouldn't put a lot of confidence in that. I'm also adding an organic-based granular for this very reason and safety. The whole point of this post is if you live in a non-stressful environment, low humidity, mild heat, and you want results cheap, then 4600 and urea 2600 or 2100 might be your answer. Well, how about Ocala, Florida, where a lot of this work was done? The hottest freaking place in Florida is around the villages. Around the villages, Florida, it's freaking hot as heck, humid all the time. And we do this all the time. We apply ammonium sulfate and urea constantly, and it's A-OK. St. Augustine grass, Bermuda grass, zoysia grass, Bahia grass, paspalum, whatever it is. It's hot and it's humid, and urea and ammonium sulfate work just fine there. So your argument falls flat with me. Research has been done on this. I will post screenshots, so I'd love to see that. Everything I use and have been using well before selling it gives you the best of everything available fast and slow with several different nitrogen sources. Is it a designer fertilizer like some of these folks call it? Possibly, or maybe it's just premium and been formulated to give the best results depending on weather conditions, and you pick the one for the correct weather, which I have done for you. They've been in business since 1946, so they're doing something right, I imagine. They might be talking about Harrell's, maybe. They do have an 1836 with 50% slow. I think Harrell's, or I think Orman Harrell started it in 1946 as a seed company. I think that's what they did. I could be wrong. Just full disclosure, I used to work for Harrell's. I used to be the sales manager for the state of Florida for Harrell's, and now I was the market manager for lawn care in the East Coast United States for several years. They might be talking about Harrell's there. I don't know. Some of these photos are AI and direct. Oh, they're just going to show photos. University, so it's not really my opinion. On the scientific crowd that are only telling you to apply ammonium sulfate and urea in a climate that's prone to turf disease don't seem to be taking you into account if you're in this climate. If you aren't in the climate, in mild or low humidity climate, then I don't have an issue with these nitrogen sources being applied. You are rarely ever exceed the 150 rule. Well, unfortunately, what's his name? Brad, I'm sorry, but your argument holds no water. Your premise basically is this. In hot, humid climates, it's hot and it's humid. When you apply urea, quick-acting urea and ammonium sulfate in hot, humid climates, it's going to result in excessive growth and cause problems. Those two premises don't connect. Because we've done work in Fort Lauderdale, in Ocala, in Gainesville, in Jay, in Lexington, in Auburn, Alabama, in you name it, all over the United States, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Ohio, Nebraska, you name it. Urea and ammonium sulfate work perfectly fine in all those climates. The risk of burn changes based upon the environment. That is true. That's the case with all liquid, all granular soluble nitrogen sources. As long as you water them in, they're okay. So I don't know who sent me that. It's been so many months since someone sent me that. I do appreciate that. This is an interesting little read. There's been a lot of chat. I'm sorry. I'll have to go. Let me go back and see if I can catch up on some chats. Do I have an opinion? Aussie Doors. I don't. You don't have to tell me Aussie Doors 22. You certainly, feel. I don't want to pressure you in any way. But your name obviously speaks of someone from Australia. And there is a very, very good possibility that I will be in Melbourne next June and part of July. So just throwing that out there, if you're from Australia, it'd be interesting to see if I ran into a member down in Australia. But he says, do you have an opinion on the use of DEF fluid? It has on nitrogen sources 32% urea at less than $10 a gallon. You can buy this at Sam's or Costco. It's diesel exhaust fluid. And he is correct. It's 32% nitrogen from urea. My opinion on it is this. If the only thing in there is deionized water and urea, and that's the only thing in there, and that's the only thing that's ever going to be in there from the manufacturer, and somehow you know that, then the product being applied would probably result in very good-looking turf grass if applied at the right rate, at the right time, on the right turf. But that's a lot of ifs. I don't know the manufacturer. I don't know the legalities of diesel exhaust fluid. I don't know if they add other things to it. I don't know if they're going to add other things to it. I don't know if they do what that is or how that would affect the turf. I don't know. But I can say, I can say with a pretty good confidence that you still aren't going to get it less expensive than if you just buy spray grade urea and melt it down yourself. At $10 a gallon, well, $10 a gallon would be, I guess you might. It might be possible if you bought it compared to the other liquids, but I don't think you're going to get less expensive than if you just buy the straight soluble urea and then just melt it down. So I would be very careful about buying all these home remedy things and trying to cheat the system by buying these other products. It's possible it may be fine, but that's a lot of ifs. And I'd be very careful with that. Same thing goes for baby shampoo and all these other home remedy things. It's possible they may result. There's some biological plausibility there is what I'm saying. I just don't know what else is in it, okay? And I'd be careful unless I knew what was in it. Oh, and then Joe Callis says it's fine, but making it way cheaper on your own. Yeah, it's probably true. Ashanti, thank you so much. Donated 5 Turfgrass Epistemology memberships. Thank you so much, Ashanti. I appreciate it. Looks like those Setsu lights. I don't know if I can put those on. I can't. Lightso Co. I can't pronounce some of these. Kenneth North and Lil Beef are all now members. Appreciate the comments. What was this? I can't remember what this. There's some comments in here. I don't remember what I was saying. Hang on a second. Somehow I fidgeted with something here. Hang on. Chuck Benzing, member for 28 months. He says the Turfgrass Epistemology membership is less dollars than an airport beer. Yeah, there you go. Probably get more out of it too. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. I did increase the price, but it's not of the membership, but it doesn't go to anybody that YouTube finally changed their policies, and it won't change for anybody that's already a member. Your fee or your price per month doesn't change according to YouTube. But YouTube said, okay, you're not charging enough money. You need to charge more. And I've never changed it, even regardless of YouTube telling me I need to change it. But then they came up and said, okay, now you can change it, but it won't change for your existing members. And so I did go ahead and do that. So anybody new will have a new fee, but the existing ones shouldn't change. It shouldn't. Yeah, thanks, Chuck, for the little Easter egg. I put the members' names are scrolling across here, right? Well, I can't do this, but it's right. It's going to scroll across right here. And the pro members' names scroll across there. Yeah, I'm trying to give you guys some love, showing you some appreciation. I got to keep going. Let's go to the next comment. I'll get to the TikTok stuff. Okay, don't feel neglected, but I gotta get the YouTube guys are the ones paying the bills. Is that the way to say it? Okay, keep going. YouTube comments. Now they'll go quick now. I had a video called "Liming is good for CO2." What? Jack Slade 2020 says, "You are a smart ass piece of work, bro. Humble yourself in all your content." Love that. Let's go to bingo. Go Native by me and my McLean. Very good. More Rooting by Sebmass. Yeah, but there was more reading. University Research by Sebmass. Yeah, that was mentioned. Very good. Sebmass. Very good. Me and my McLean. Very good, guys. Let's go back. Tinfoil Turfgrass, 35 years of experience, 35 years of BS. The full automatic, man, a lot of people were commenting on that video. They weren't happy. Full Automatic 1966 says, Dr. Shaddox, my apologies if this was mentioned. I was multitasking while listening, but what do you think about applying coated time-release nitrogen very early in the spring for cool season grass, like possibly right before the grass starts waking up? The hypothesis being that the nitrogen will slowly become available when the grass begins to wake up, and as it further wakes up and temperature rises, the nitrogen also rises along with it, and hopefully the right product is used such that it is mostly depleted by the summer-like temperature. When the summertime temperatures hit, again, sorry if I missed it sorry if I missed it if you hit on this topic as it would be pertain to cool season grasses. Yeah, I do have an opinion on that. So what the idea is that you can apply slow release nitrogens early in the spring prior to green up, and then as the temperature warms up, the grass will start growing, and so too will the release of nitrogen from those slow release nitrogen sources, assuming that it's, not like an IBDU or something, temperature influences or something, assuming that's the case. I would say that if you hit it just right, I don't have a huge problem with that, okay? But the problem I do have with it is that the concept of applying nitrogen when the turf grass is dormant and not actively growing flies in the face of nutrient BMPs. The only plausible or justifiable, not even justifiable, but the argument that could be made is that, okay, Dr. Shaddox, I get what you're saying. I want to wait until the grass has greened up and I've mowed it once, maybe even twice, and then apply it. I get that. But I'm a lawn care operator. I have 8-week cycles. If I wait until the grass greens up, it's going to be 8 weeks until I apply the last application. And by that time, it's the end of May. Then I'm applying fertilizer right before June and so forth. By the way, that's not a huge issue in most cases, but it can be. I understand those logistical issues. I get it. And there's not a really easy way to work around that. So in that case, you could make a good argument that, okay, I know it's going to green up. Let's say in Kentucky, I know my mower is going to be started at April 1, I'm going to be mowing the lawn at least once. So I know that. It's the same way every year. So I might go out a week before. That's fine. But I wouldn't be going out in February or March, like early March, because you're applying fertilizer when the turf grass has no ability to take it up. And what happens if it rains an inch or two and runs off? And you don't have any ability to take up that nitrogen. Or if it starts releasing and there's no activity in the turf at all. It's just contrary to established tenets, but that's not a really good reason to do it, I guess. But you see what I'm saying? BMPs would say, if the turf grass does not have the physical ability to take it up because it's dormant or dead, then you shouldn't be applying any nitrogen or phosphorus or any potassium, but nitrogen and phosphorus particularly. So I'd be careful with that. So that's my take on it for now. You continue. Good question. Tinfoil turf grass, 35 years of experience, 35 years of BS. This was by, what was the guy's name? Whatever the guy's, Greg Phillips. At Witness 033 says, I used the so-called stabilized nitrogen once on my sports fields. No difference at all. My fields have different soil types and I observed them carefully. Biggest scam I ever fell for from Lesco. I think that was 2018 maybe. Yeah, there's a in that particular video, Greg Phillips is talking about the greatest fertilizer he's ever come across, and it had stabilized nitrogen in it. And when we tested that in the field, we almost never see any difference from just urea alone. So the stabilized nitrogen has a denitrifying component that reduces denitrification, and another one that reduces volatilization. So the concept is there's less gaseous loss of nitrogen from urea. You're going to have greater uptake from the turf, and the turf's going to look better. But every time we measured it, we don't see any difference between that and urea at all. And it's not the same price. These stabilized nitrogen sources are sometimes, not always, but sometimes twice as expensive as urea. So there's really no good reason to use stabilized nitrogen sources in turf grass management. So long as you're watering it a little bit in, you're A-okay. Don't worry about it. Any benefit that you would see from the MBPT, the urease inhibitor, any benefit that might occur from that, you would basically nullify from simply just watering in the urea straight up. Okay, so as long as you're watering it in, you're okay. If you're not watering it in, then maybe you can make a little bit of an argument, but you're still not going to see much benefit. You're certainly not going to see enough benefit to justify the additional cost from the stabilized nitrogen sources. I keep hitting the wrong button. Molasses in turf, hyper help. Single Stack says, don't listen to the BS this dweeb expels. I love that. Let's go to the bingo card. Sebmes says, smart ass. Boom. Got it. 35 years of experience. Sebmes gets it again. He's all over the board. I love it. Sometimes I do stuff. Actually, a lot of times I do stuff and it just falls on its face. So I'm going to try this bingo thing. I'm having fun with it. It's great. I'll try anything just for a kick. Let's continue. Does hydrotain benefit turfgrass? I can tell you right now, hydrotain does not benefit turfgrass. There's articles on this. I'm going to go over another article now that we're on wetting agents, but honestly, it's probably going to be a while because it's a newer article, which I'm not going to get to in the near future. But it also showed that hydrotain didn't do squat. So, U.S. Medalist says, what a BS. You know that we have Google AI now, not what the F you did 20 years ago. U.S. medalist. That's great. That's fantastic. I would definitely rely on Google AI rather than a soil scientist or a turfgrass scientist that publishes the work that Google AI relies upon to give you the answer. It's insane. It's great. Why smart people keep making this mistake? Chris Henslick 5482 says, big one I'm seeing lately is liquid kelp. I looked it up and received every viewpoint imaginable. Do you have, or could you make a video on how normies can find literature that we can be fairly sure is trustworthy? Thanks, Dr. Shaddox. Excellent question. Man, that's a fantastic question. That's exactly why this channel exists. How do you go find the literature that we can have confidence in? They're saturated with nonsense and misinformation. Well, the first thing you can do is go to Michigan State, or you can just Google Turfgrass information file. This used to be behind a paywall. The search engine used to be behind a paywall. Now it's not. You can search essentially all turfgrass literature on the planet for free, and you can at least pull up the abstract. So you'll search in liquid kelp or sea kelp on the turfgrass information file. If you want to find refereed papers, then you just select that option as refereed papers only, and it would just find those. And then you can go through all the literature and look through what it usually files it in numerical order from the most current date and backwards. And you can find whatever article you're interested in reading and click on that. You might not be able to access all the papers that way, but you'll be able to access at least the abstract and read the basics of what the paper found. That's a good way to start. I've also found a great deal of luck and usefulness using Claude AI for doing a literature review. You can ask the question, find me refereed papers, scientific papers on liquid sea kelp for turfgrass management, and they'll give you a whole list of scientific papers. You might not be able to access the papers, but you'll be able to access the abstract, and it'll basically tell you what it found in the paper. It'll give you the bullet points, the take-home messages in the abstract. So that's the way I would start. And you can also be a member of your state associations like FTGA or Kentucky Turf Council or Ohio State Turfgrass. Be a member of one of those associations, and those people can help you. Your land-grant university is in the link to every land-grant university and turfgrass program is in the description of every YouTube video. You can go down there and click on that. It's going to open up a PDF, and it's going to bring every university up, and you can click on that and find the local turfgrass program and consult with those scholars and see what they have to say about that. But that's where I'd start. And you can, of course, go to Google Scholar and also start with Google Scholar, and you can find all the articles. Again, if you don't have access to it because you're not in the scientific realm or you're not paying for the memberships of those associations, you won't be able to read the entire article, but you'll be able to get the bullet points from it. Okay? That's what I would do. Next question, next comment. Tenfold Turfgrass, 35 years of experience, 35 years of BS. Vodka Soda RT says, Greg put up a fantastic rebuttal video today that's worth watching. This tells you how long ago I put this up. He did this like months ago, and I'm just now getting to the comment. He does a great job of backing up his position with both university research and real-world turfgrass management experience. He did not. His university research was extension bulletins, and I don't have hardly any confidence in that because I've seen exactly how those are produced. University research means absolutely bupkis to me unless it's published in a refereed journal. It's just that simple. You would hope the extension publications that come out are based upon refereed papers, but they're not always. And he did not use refereed papers. He used extension bulletins, or in some extension bulletins. One point that stood out, yes, fast-release urea and nitrogen can work great when everything is applied perfectly. But in the real world, most homeowners are using varied spreaders, watering methods, and application techniques. Products designed for homeowners, including products with more slow-release coated urea, often provide a bigger margin of error when it comes to burn, striping, and uneven growth. Yeah, that's probably true. But if your argument is, well, people don't know what they're doing, and so they shouldn't be using the most efficient product, that's not a very good argument. Basically, what you're saying is people are idiots. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to apply these correctly. And because people are idiots and we don't have enough confidence in these people applying it correctly, then they shouldn't be using the most efficient product. They should be using these other products that are made for morons. Let me just read between the lines, and that's what he's saying. Okay, what our goal is, should be, and is, for me, is to teach people how to do this correctly. But if you're going to go out with a, I'll leave that out. I might get banned from YouTube. If you're going to go out with a 50 caliber handgun, or 50 caliber rifle with a 9-year-old, that's pretty stupid. Okay, you start with a BB gun and you work your way up. Okay, you need to know how to use it correctly. And the scholar's responsibility is to teach people how to use these products correctly. And that's, if we failed on that, then we failed on that. But just simply saying they're morons and they shouldn't be using this and we should be using these other products because they don't know what they're doing is not a very good argument. That's really the bigger point here. Something can look one way in tightly controlled university research. I get that a lot, man. I get that a lot. Oh, it's in research. That's in tightly controlled research. Did you say that about the Tylenol you took? Did you say that about the cancer drug that your mom takes or the diabetes medication that you're taking? Did you say that? Because those were in tightly controlled trials as well. But play out differently when used by general public under inconsistent real-world conditions. Greg's perspective comes from years of practical turf management experience. Yeah, he makes a point of saying that. Everybody watching this channel knows that. He relies heavily on appeals to authority. I've been doing this for almost four decades. You got to believe me. I don't care if you've been doing it for 4 decades or 4 minutes. I don't care. What is your claim and is it supported by evidence or not? That's all I care about. There's students that come out that have wonderful new perspectives and they ask questions like, man, I never thought about that. That's right. Yeah, we need to consider looking into that. And they just came out. They're just students. They don't have 4 decades of experience. Or you could be doing this for 4 decades and be doing it completely wrong. It makes no difference. In his experience, which naturally emphasizes real-world applications and consistencies alongside the science. I don't care. I don't care if you've been doing it for that long. It doesn't make any difference to me how long you've been doing it. What matters to me is, are your management practices supported by evidence or are they not? And just because you've been doing it in the field means jack squat to me. I don't care. What I care about is doing it in the field supported by evidence. And the evidence comes from the scientific method, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Tenfold Turfgrass, 35 years experience. Again, I told you there's a lot of comments. The Dylan6908 says, I appreciate your expertise and I'm all in on showcasing charlatans, but I think you are way off base with the video title here. You're implying that Greg's education and professional lawn care experience is all BS. That's an overstatement. Maybe he got a couple things wrong, but I don't understand your need to destroy him. I'm sure he provides far more benefit to homeowners than he steers them wrong. Well, I appreciate your kind words, but just because we create a law that tells everybody in the United States that you're going to get $1 million, but that's a good law, right? But we're also going to sacrifice everybody's firstborn son out in the middle of the town square. Well, would that be a good law? No, it wouldn't be. So it doesn't matter whether he's been doing it for 40 years and he's been helping people for 40 years. If what he's saying is incorrect, then it's incorrect and it's sufficiently harmful in the cases where he's telling people to go out and apply all this expensive nitrogen, these products saying that's the best nitrogen ever, and it's not. That's where I step in. Stay out of my lane. That's what I said before yesterday. If you just get on YouTube and you start selling your stuff, and you have all your affiliated links and sell your robot mowers, that's your lane. I don't get in that. That's your lane. If you move into the lane of education and science and start trying to explain people the science, that's my lane, and I'm going to run you over, okay? So stay out of my lane. Stay in your lane. It's real simple. You do what you do best. I'll do what I do best, and everything will be happy. Stop blurring the lines between the lanes. It'll all be good. No problem. Next comment. Molasses and turf, help or hype? Airframe Fixer says, I attended the Joe Williams seminar in 2018. Joe Williams? What? I just had a complete brain lapse. Does he mean Joe Williams or Joel Simmons? Anyway, Joel Williams seminar in 2018 and Graham Sate's material. I just went over an article by Graham Sate yesterday. The logic line of reasoning that they have provided in addition to providing microbial food source is to raise Brix levels as an insect deterrent. By the way, any help to deter insect is always welcome as I operate in a jurisdiction that is highly restrictive of synthetic insecticides. So relying solely upon chemistries for control isn't the first option. Your thoughts, feedback. Yeah. So what you may not, I've never introduced this topic before, the topic of bricks. And what bricks is, BRIX, for those who aren't familiar with it. It's a measure of the total dissolved solids in liquids, basically. But they generally will use it to measure sugars in plant liquid. And they'll use it in grapes and fruiting things like tomatoes and things like that. And oftentimes they'll find that there is a relationship between the bricks level in fruit and to a desired outcome. And what they'll do is they'll transfer that into other things like sap, leaf sap and stem sap and turf and corn and all sorts of stuff. And that's all nonsense. There's no evidence to support that at all. So that's my take on it. So yeah, I wouldn't have a whole lot of confidence. Graham Sate is a delusional gentleman who's a con man, believes in base saturation, and I fully stand behind that. If you're selling base saturation, you are a con man, you are a charlatan. There's no question about it. It's been refuted dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And if you believe it and you're using it, then you're a victim, and I do feel sorry for you. But if you're selling it, you're a con man, and that's what Graham Sate does. He's a con man. So yeah, that's my take on that. Let's go to the bingo board. Bingo. Dweeb by Sebmess. Sea Kelp by Sebmess. I think you're the only one playing Sebmess. Molasses, yes. Real world experience. Yeah, I got real world experience. Charlatan is on there as well. We're going to get a bingo at some point. Microbial food, yep. And raised bricks. We just mentioned it. Yes, very good. We almost got the board full. Very, very good. Nice. I love it. By the way, if you want to call the show in, you can always call the show. You can call right now. I'll put you on the air. You want to talk to me. It's tinyurl.com/turftv, or you can just scan the barcode on your screen. Let's go back to the questions or the comments. Science communication, meet your audience where they are. Mr. Lushlawn says, keep doing what you're doing, Travis. We're right behind you, brother. I appreciate it, Lushlawn. You're great. Thank you very much. Science communication, meet the audience where you are. Shorts. Hollow DRGN says, thankful that Travis got me to stop paying attention to all these lawn charlatans. I believe Professor Dave on YouTube talks about science communications a good amount and how the lack of more science professionals in these spaces allows for snake oil and conspiracies to proliferate. Yes, that is absolutely true. Professor Dave is a little bit more spicy than I am. But man, he has a huge following, and he doesn't mince words, and he's extremely good live. I don't know if he does what he does on his show without a script. It sounds like there's no script, but he's going so fast. I'm like, how can he do that without a script? But I saw him in a live debate, and he's just like that. Dude is sharp, really sharp. We continue. Why urea is nearly unbeatable. Chad Smith, 7173, says, mill organite and ammonium sulfate, 1A and 1B. Just stop with the urea nonsense. Mill organite and your ammonium sulfate will result in good-looking turf grass. There's no doubt. Mill organite's about 7 times more expensive to create the exact same turf. Ammonium sulfate's about maybe 10 to maybe as high as 20% more expensive than urea. But it'll also result in good-looking turf. Mill organite is going to have a tremendous amount of phosphorus that you might not need, and potentially PFOS that if you're applying at some point in the future, you might find that you're breaking the law, particularly in states like Maine. So yeah, I'm not going to stop with the urea. I will stop with urea the second that there is sufficient evidence to convince me to do so. Until then, I'm good with urea. Thank you for your comment, Chad Smith. Granular versus foliar iron, manganese and magnesium fertilizer for turfgrass. Rolling on the floor, ROFLNO 6157 says, turfgrass is trash. Go native, y'all. That is so good. That is so freaking good. So you can go bingo. 7S picked up snake oil. Very good. Very good. Snake oil. It's fantastic. Turfgrass irrigation, light and frequent watering versus deep. Greg Worrell, 2623 says, I've been in the lawn business since 1975. I've been advising my customers to water daily for 20 minutes a day for at least the last 25 to 30 years. That was based on advice from the late Dr. Joe Vargas at Michigan State University. Wonderful man, actually. Wonderful, very well-respected previous past professor at University of Michigan State. He recommended daily watering in the mid-afternoon to cool off the turf and lowering the stress levels of the plant. He found that the result was much lower incidence of disease issues. The whole idea was to prevent drought stress at the time. I think most of the focus was on some diseases occurring in Kentucky bluegrass lawns, so it is good to know that what works well for other species as well, or that works well. He also pointed out that he found no truth in the oft-repeated notion that infrequent watering led to deep rooting. He said that active lawn roots were never deep in the summer, no matter how you water. The daily watering has worked great for me and my customers who actually follow the advice. Of course, they are often bucking the advice of the sprinkler guys who want to schedule a very early morning watering and rarely would schedule it for every day. Yeah, so if you're not used to that concept, if you've just, again, listening on TikToks or coming on one of the other platforms, and you haven't heard this before, there is this concept in the industry that you should water deeply and infrequently, and I was taught that in school. But I went over the water literature months ago. I forget when I stopped doing it, probably 6 months ago. And I listed out all the articles I went over and looked at deep and infrequent versus light and frequent. And they found that both of them basically resulted in the same turf most of the time. Deep and infrequent almost never resulted in better turf. When there was a difference, it was the light and frequent application of water that resulted in superior turf grass on occasion. For the most part, it was kind of a wash, but there was really no good reason to water deeply and infrequently to result in some sort of deeper root system or more drought-tolerant turf grass sward. That evidence I could never find that evidence in the literature, and I looked for it hard. I couldn't find it. So you're probably good either way. If you want to err on a little bit better quality, I would err towards light and frequent applications of water rather than deep and infrequent. Okay. Granular iron. Don't waste money on this fertilizer. BPTJPS says, I tried his double dark and could never see that. I thought it was a waste of money. It must be talking about the double dark fertilizer from Yardmaster. Yeah, you're not going to get your yard double dark from applying granular iron. Granular iron will oxidize within minutes, and essentially none of that iron will ever get into turfgrass plants. So that's another con job from our friends over at Yardmaster, thinking you can make your grass double dark by applying granular iron together. You can do it by applying liquid iron, but not granular iron. Let's go to the bingo card. Turf grass is trash by 7S again. Bingo. I don't know why I like that so much. Thanks so much for participating, 7S. There's still some points on the board. I got a text. I don't know if some of these I thought I already went over, so I apologize if I've mentioned these before. I really do. It seems like I went over this in the previous comments episode, but maybe I didn't. He said, I just want to say thank you for the effort you put into your podcast YouTube. I had a very lengthy drive today and just finished listening to the plant charge balance episode. It kept me engaged and entertained. Yeah, you're welcome. I had an episode, I don't know when it was. It was a while back. And see if I can do this without breaking the system. I cannot. Okay. It was a while back. And there's this guy. What was his name? It was from I can't remember his name now. It's from some company that had I can't remember. It's been a while, but it's going to bug me until I remember the guy's name. The company is selling a bunch of humic acid stuff and saying it's plant charge balance and all this other stuff. I can't remember now. And man, he was in it deep. I mean, that BS was flowing out big time, and I had a great time on that episode. That was fantastic. It just is was it charge? Charge and flow? It was charge and flow. He's basically arguing that you should maintain the products you're applying should, I don't even remember now. It's been so long, but it was a great episode. You should go back and watch it. It was plant charge balance. It was probably a year ago. I don't even remember. It was a long time ago. But I do appreciate the text. That was to my phone. Appreciate it. Instagram now. Here's an interesting video to cover for potassium and base count saturation on tenfold turfgrass. As soon as they said, balance your soil, my ears perked up. And then here's the link. And then it says, it was originally linked to one of the Bermuda grass Facebook groups I'm in. I find myself looking into the literature whenever a random claim is made in these groups with no evidence or context. No, I'm going to do this, and I'm also going to simultaneously do a couple other ones as well, because it's in the Facebook group, and I think I accidentally skipped through it or something. I don't know. But I'm going to go to here. I'm going to do this. See if can I do that? No, I can't. Good grief. Let me fix this. And hang on, let me see if I can fix this, and then I'll see what I can do about getting it on TikTok or not. I don't really know if I can do this on TikTok, but I'll see what I can do. So this was on Instagram, and it is from Ag PhD Media. Now, Ag PhD is the propaganda arm behind Acres TV. They're the system or the people that really indoctrinate people into misinformation in North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Kansas, all the bread belt of the United States. And there are a lot of the people, I think I don't know if it's led by the brothers here, but on the screen you'll find one of the brothers, and you'll see the other one here. What's their name? I can't remember their names now. Anyway, let's listen to what Ag PhD has to say on Instagram.
Well, there are a couple different readings for potassium.
Hang on. Did I just mess that up already? I did. Let me back up. Okay, here we go.
When you take a look at a soil test, one of the most important things you've got to concern yourself with is the balance of nutrients in the soil.
You never have to worry about that, just so you know, ever. You never have to worry about the balance of nutrients in the soil. It's a con man's way of selling you more fertilizer than you need. And there's really no scholar, I don't know of any scholar who practices or studies this, publishes it, investigates it, that ever recommends balancing soil. These balancing soils are all from salesmen, and it's a means to sell you more product than you actually need, just so we're clear, okay?
On a simple way to look at balance in the soil, take a look at the base saturation test. That's going to show you the ratio of calcium, magnesium, sodium, hydrogen, and our topic today, potassium, on the base saturation test.
Well, there are a couple different readings for potassium on soil tests. So if you do have the base saturation test, that's our topic today. There's also just straight up parts per million, and that is important too. I know some people will say, well, that's the only number you need to look at is parts per million. No, you're really wrong, because as Brian was saying, if you've got a heavier soil, what are the odds that your roots are going to find those parts per million? Even if you had the bare minimum of what you needed, maybe you have 200 parts per million, that's not going to work. If you've got a really heavy soil and you've got a lot of the other nutrients, it's going to be hard to find a potassium here and there. But if you've got, on the other hand, a real sandy soil, well, then a higher parts per million, you may be fine. You may not have to put on a whole bunch more because you may be able to access most of that. So we do want to see the parts per million, but we also need to see it in the base saturation to know, am I going to be able to get it?
Yeah, so that's an argument that it's really, I mean, it might sound convincing, but it's just complete nonsense. Now, the only way it would be have some validity, if I can steel man his argument, would be when we do these trials, we'll do them on sod farms or we'll do them on research farms or whatever the case is. And whatever we find in terms of the critical limit, let's say the critical limit for potassium is 50, parts per million at 6 inches. Well, it's based upon whatever the soil compaction was at that location. And if you happen to have a location where the soil is so compact that the roots aren't actually in that soil, it's not able to harvest potassium from the soil, then it wouldn't be representative of that minimum critical limit in that case. It might not be. But it doesn't have anything to do. His argument is that you wouldn't be able to harvest from that because it's the soil is too tight or too loose as a result of the base saturation. That's complete nonsense. Silly. It's gross. It's just grossly negligent is what it is. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, now I know. I'll leave your name off of it, Aussie Doors 22. But now I know. Okay, these are my favorite Australian from Southwest Florida. I'll go with you to Australia. Yeah. So yeah, well, now I know who you are, Aussie Doors. Okay, now I completely connect all the dots now. And I did look up that cruise to Tasmania from Melbourne, and my wife was like, "We're totally doing that." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, we're doing that." So yeah, and I would love to go with me. I love that. I need a tour guide. I need to figure out what to do there. So that's very, very likely going to happen as soon as the flight. I can't see what the flights are next July until like another week or two, because the flight logs or whatever, flights don't kick in for 2027 until like you're, I guess, 12 months out or whatever it is. So as soon as I figure out what it is on the prices and stuff, then I'll start taking it more serious. But yeah, I'm probably going down there. I'd love to have you with me. That'd be great. You can help me drive through Melbourne without killing somebody on the wrong side of the road. Any other questions? Max the Great 11 MH says, should I use Earthworks 333 this fall? Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to use Earthworks 333, you're going to end up with good-looking turf. If you want to spend a mountain of money, a huge, huge amount of money to result in a good-looking lawn, then the Earthworks 333 would be perfectly fine to do. You can probably spend about, I have to do the math, but probably 5 or 10% of that money, or probably less than that, and get the same exact lawn without buying the 333 by just using urea or ammonium sulfate, depending on certain conditions that you might have. But there's nothing wrong with the NPK analysis, or there is, I take that back, there is something wrong with the analysis. You're probably applying phosphorus where you don't need to. But regardless, assuming that you're good there, it has NP and K in it. It's going to result in a decent looking lawn. No one's debating that. The only debate is the amount of money it takes to create that lawn is huge, huge level, many, many fold greater than you would from just a commodity product like urea or ammonium sulfate. Yeah. And I think some of the other people already jumped on it and let you know about that. So, oh, you got me. Yeah, he says he was baiting me into rage baiting. Yeah, no. People think I have this problem with Earthworks or any company. I don't have any problem with any company. I don't have any problem with any of the people at any of the companies. I really don't. What I have a problem with is the nonsense that they spew and the just the impact that their BS and nonsense has on my industry. That's the problem I have with it. But I don't have a problem with any of the people over there. It's all good. No problem. Let's go back to bingo. Soil balancing from SevMess. Got another bingo. We might black out this board tonight. It's very possible. Let me go back to the internet because I'm going to do these next two, not the last two, but these next two because I don't remember where they are. Let me rewind this. It's another one from Ag PhD, and this one has to do with potassium. I apologize, you guys are on TikTok. I can't fix all this stuff all at the same time on every platform, but I'm going to stick with what I got right now, and hopefully it doesn't screw it up. Let's see what Ag PhD has to say again from another video they have. This one's on Facebook now. Let me see if I can increase the voice or the volume.
Fertility. Potassium is number one. It's potassium, potassium, potassium.
No, it's not. It's potassium, potassium, potassium when you're a con man. If you are a charlatan, a con man, a grifter, a racketeer in the world of agriculture, then you are trying to sell potassium. Yeah, definitely. If you are that, then you need to sell potassium. Potassium in the world of turfgrass. Well, I'll say never. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but it will never result in a greener turfgrass. It's never been documented. It might result in a little bit of increase in growth if the turfgrass was deficient in potassium to begin with. There might be a little bit of increase in growth, but I don't think it's ever been documented that you'd see more greening in the turfgrass. In most cases, and when I say most, I mean 95% of the cases or more, you will never see a response to the applied potassium. If you apply it with potassium sulfate, and you see a response, which I've shown on the channel before, there is almost a certitude that that is from sulfate, not from the potassium. So this potassium business is I can't say always, but virtually every time is a result of salesmen convincing you that you need it, because it's not coming from scholars. The turfgrass scholars, which in the world of nutrition, there's only a handful of us left now. For the most part, we're all on the same board with potassium, and that is it's probably not going to be useful except for in very, very specific conditions, and it's definitely not going to be useful if the soil potassium is above a critical limit, which is probably around 50 parts per million or so, something like that. It depends on the situation, but it's probably fine. So potassium is definitely important to con man, and the guys over at Ag PhD fit that to a T.
So there are a couple things that we want you to look at on the soil test. One is parts per million, or you could convert that to pounds per acre. You need lots. And two, we want to have the base saturation. So the ratio of potassium in the soil, we want that roughly 4% to 8%. You
want as much as you can get. Oh, no, you're going to off-balance it. You're going to screw other things up. You put too much on. That's balancing. You're on a never-ending seesaw.
Want it higher if you have light soil, and if you have certain crops like trees, for example, then you probably want to talk 7 to 8% base saturation K.
And Brian's right, but
by the way, they're just making all this up. And you're going to go, oh, no, they have data to support that. They wouldn't make it up. No, they're making it all up. That's all it is. And what I mean by that is they don't have any evidence to support any of that. They're literally just making it up out of thin air. Oh, we've been doing this for so many years. We're basing on that. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's hard. I'm trying to think like from the perspective of someone who's not on my shoes. Like I would assume you'd see that and go, well, there's no way they would say that unless they have a good reason. Yes, they would say that without a good reason. They do it all the time. There is no good reason to follow that nonsense.
Potassium is a big one, but we do need all the other nutrients too. All the other essential nutrients would be critical. So the big ones, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, in addition to potassium. But
sulfur is really important. I agree with that. Nitrogen is really important. All these are important in NPK. It's just that the soil normally supplies a lot of this for us already, just so we know.
But also the secondary and micronutrients. We need a balance of nutrition for the plant. We just need to be a little bit on the higher end of the scale for potassium.
But the balance thing, part of me wants to say they're really sort of appealing to emotion because there's something about that internally in the human mind that kind of connects. Well, I want to be balanced. I want to be, not too much, not too little. There's a feeling inside most people that's like that can kind of connect with them. And I think that's why so many people buy into that management practice, that scam. Because, well, no, I don't want too much nitrogen. I don't want too much potassium. I want just enough, and I want to bounce out. I think that's probably why. But it's all scam. It's all a con. And there's dozens of papers that show it. I've gone over many of those papers on the channel before.
If we want bigger stalks.
Okay, fertility.
Okay, that's it on that one. Yeah. They have a bunch. I think they have what is it? Satellite radio. Sirius XM. I think they have a Sirius XM show. That's pretty scary. My phone's going bananas on me. I think they have a Sirius XM show on satellite radio. These guys, in other words, it's the Hefty brothers. That's their name. Darren and something Hefty. Two of the best con men in the business, agriculture. They're top notch, man. And I'll stand up in court and pull out all the base saturation articles you want me to pull out to defend that statement. You won't find one. From William Albrecht to Furman Bear to Oscar Lowe to anybody else, you won't find one that shows that actually works relative to just critical limit theory. You won't find one, or SLAN, if you want to call it SLAN. Okay, you won't find one. So bring it on. Now let's go to another one here. Now this one's going to be muted, and I'm going to read because there's only music playing, and I don't really remember what it's about, but I will read what's going on the screen for those listening. But I think there's music playing, and I don't want to get a kickback on me or whatever. So there's a video of a guy with a 5-gallon bucket with some magic brown dirt water. Immediately, that strikes my interest. This is the equivalent of flat earth to me. I love it. Magic brown dirt water is like flat earth to me. You can just mainline that right into my vein. I love it. Anytime this right here, let's see if I can't. Well, I got to put it back on the screen. It is literally the equivalent of again. I got to keep my words. It's an addiction. It's like meth. It's like ice. I love it. There's so much nonsense, and it's the same sad story for the last 100 years. By the way, you think this has come up in the last 10 or 20 years? This stuff. This has been around for a century. People selling magic brown dirt water to people. Seer stones. Whoever's holding this right here, if he's selling it, this is no different than Joseph Smith selling seer stones. That's all this is. That's all this is. Sorry if you're a Mormon, but he did get convicted of it. So I'm not saying anything that's not a fact. So there's magic brown dirt water. And it says fermented IMO, and I don't know what IMO is. Fermented IMOT with 20-20-20 or 10-10-40 in this 5-gallon bucket of magic brown dirt water. And he's going to pour it into a smaller bucket. And it says, I don't know how long this has been sitting here. And it looks like, what the heck is this? Oh, is that the... Oh, that's the... Oh, it looks like he left the magic brown dirt water in the 5-gallon bucket and it fermented on top of it, it looks like. And he's shown now a photo of some microorganisms, like a scanning electron micrograph of some microorganisms on the screen. It says name is on bottom of photo. Smells like wine and Worcestershire sauce. Microbes breathing and letting off methane gas and nitrous oxide. He's showing some bottles next to a 250-gallon tote. Will help reduce the amount of fertilizer needed for a healthy lawn, aerate the soil. Reduce the thatch, okay. Reduce water consumption and of course, a better-looking lawn. We went over thatch. One of the first topics I ever went over on this channel was thatch. And this got to be like November of like 2.5 years ago. And there's only one product that has an enzyme on it called lacase that might have an impact on some thatch degradation. But all this other stuff, sugars and all this other fancy microbes and all this other stuff, it just doesn't do anything at all. Thatch is so lignaceous that it's just not going to do anything. But he has it on here. Aerate the soil. We already went over that. You can just read Dr. Henry's paper on that. It's not going to do squat. Reduce thatch. Not going to do anything unless there's lacase in it. Reduce water consumption. I haven't seen anything to support that. And a better lawn. Well, if you put this on your lawn and it is nutrient deprived, you're not applying anything at all, like no nitrogen and nothing. And there might be some nitrogen in there. I mean, it's possible, I suppose. We continue, and it says, shows a bunch of 250-gallon totes, bunch of magic brown dirt water. We continue. Yeah, don't feel bad. That's all this is. He's just showing totes after totes after totes. Plant growth enhancing and biocontrol mechanisms of Streptomyces liticus and its use in nursery and greenhouse production. What was he going to show an article or something? Was this like a paper or something? Oh, there was no paper. Yeah, oftentimes, like again, I think it's like an appeal to nature, right? Like, well, this is natural and it's fermenting and we need more organisms. If that 250-gallon tote, let's say that 250-gallon tote indeed had all those microorganisms in it. Let's assume that that's true. And you had a typical lawn in, Europe somewhere or Australia somewhere, wherever. You had a typical lawn and you went out and dumped that whole 250-gallon tote right on your front lawn of 1,000 square feet. Just dump the whole thing on there. There's going to be nitrogen in there, phosphorus in there, and some iron in there probably that might turn the grass green. But in terms of the bugs in your soil, I bet statistically there's no difference at all. Billions and billions and trillions of bugs that are in that 250-gallon tote are a drop in the bucket, a grain of sand on the beach of soil microbiology that already exists in your soil. It's literally that serious. You're not going to do anything to those microbes. I don't know why people get so bent out of shape about it. Go look up Dr. Zerber. He's the one who wrote that. I don't have the book down here. He's the one that wrote the book on soil microbiology along with Dr. Silva. All of them are just perplexed. Like, why are you guys blowing all your money on soil microbes? It's the one thing that there's no way you'll ever get rid of. They're everywhere all the time. Why are you trying to screw with it? They're fine. I still don't get it. I don't get it. Just worry about your water. Worry about your light and the temperature and the shade and the mower blades. Just your mower blades alone are probably going to do far more than anything else, assuming you have the water, light, and temperature figured out. Far more than any of this balancing soil and balancing and the magic brown dirt water. Just sharpen your dang blades is going to do more than any of that stuff. You continue. Again, I don't know what to do with this. Somebody sent this to me. It says Bermuda Lawn Care Pros. I can't click on it. It says potassium base from Lauren Mulder. It says one of the most important takeaways from any soil test is the balance of soils. I can't access that. I don't know, or maybe I can. I don't know how to access that. I don't have a freaking clue. So I'm sorry, but I'll have to skip through it. I'll just say if Lauren Mulder is a proponent of base saturation, then he's delusional. If he's selling things off of base saturation, then he's a con man. But I don't know. I don't know what Lauren Mulder has to say about base saturation and potassium. I don't have a clue. Maybe that was the video I just watched or something from the Ag PhD guys. I don't know. I can't access this. TikTok. Now let's go to TikTok on some of the comments. It says urea versus amino acids. Grass Guy 753 says, I've never seen a good golf course that relies only on urea. Well, Grass Guy 757 may be a very good person. I mean, maybe a great superintendent. I don't know. But unfortunately, what you're talking about here, Grass Guy, is the black swan fallacy. And the black swan fallacy says that, well, I'll just explain it real quick. There were people in Europe that said all swans are white because I've never seen a swan that isn't white. And then it was a Dutch explorer that went down to Australia, my buddy from Australia who's in the chat tonight. A Dutch explorer from Europe, from Denmark, went down to Australia, and in Australia they have black swans. And so the belief in Europe that all swans were white because I've never seen any other species or any other color of swan was wrong, because they went down to Europe and found black swans. So what you're saying here is because I've never seen a good golf course that only uses urea, therefore you shouldn't use only urea, is the black swan fallacy. That's what that is. So just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that it wouldn't be a good idea. So it's not an attack on Grass Guy. I mean, Grass Guy might be a good guy. I don't know, but you'll have to redevelop the argument there on this particular argument, Grass Guy, if you want me to believe that I shouldn't be using urea simply because you've never seen a golf course that only relies on it. There may be golf courses that do rely on it that you haven't come across that look perfectly good. Or there may be golf courses that should be using urea, and if they switch to urea, it'd still look good that you haven't seen yet. So just reconsider your argument and reframe it. It might be better. All right. Twitter. Obsessed with chasing the perfect soil pH. If your grass looks good, who cares? Stop throwing money away on endless treatments. So that's a tweet that I sent out, or my bot sent out. I don't really get on Twitter anymore. I have a bot that does that. That's probably a video I sent out. And Kenneth Sisson at KK Sisson4 says, I totally disagree. I chased after 6.3 and 6.5 pH because more nutrients were available. Isn't a healthy lawn the point? A healthy lawn exchanges more carbon dioxide and oxygen than a lawn that's just green. I'm thinking this guy is all book knowledge, and I'm being generous. I'm sure he has a following that believes lawn care is a grift, but I know my lawns were greener into the summer and into the winter without pesticides, and my hard work wasn't a grift. I wasn't an armchair. Couple jabs at me. There may be more nutrients available at 6.3 and 6.5 than another pH. I don't care. Makes no difference to me one way or the other. What I care about is the nutrients that are taken up into the plant at a given pH. Because just because you think there's more nutrients available at 6.3 doesn't necessarily mean that there's more nutrients being taken up by the plant at those pHs. You can go back and look at all those articles I've gone over on that topic. So you need a little help there. All book knowledge, and I'm being generous. Thank you, I guess. I definitely didn't work in the turfgrass industry for decades before I went into school. Learn more about school. So you definitely don't, I just leave it. I don't want to insult you, but you definitely don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying lawn care is a grift at all. I don't know where you come up with that. I don't know if I've ever said lawn care is a grift. Lawn care is not a grift. The salesmen selling lawn care operators and golf course superintendents things oftentimes will engage in a grift. That's true. But not all salesmen are that way. I know a lot of salesmen that are very honorable. But there are a lot of people who get convinced for bad reasons. And if you're convinced that you should be applying nutrients based on base saturation, you were convinced for bad reason. You're a victim, and the person who convinced you is a con man. It's just that simple. Okay. Let's go to the bingo. Amino acids by Sebmes. Black swan fallacy. I think you got all four. Did you get all four bingos? Okay, so it looks like Mike Fusick did the math. Let's assume that it's all correct. God knows if I did math that quick, it probably wouldn't be correct. But Urea 4600 wins big on cost. 50-pound bag, around $30 to $50. Oh, around $30 for 50. Gives 23 pounds of nitrogen for about $1.50 to $2.20 per pound. DEF gives 3.4 pounds of nitrogen and usually runs $4 to $5 per pound. So dissolved urea is roughly 2 to 3 times cheaper per pound of nitrogen for turf sprays. That doesn't surprise me. So I'll go with what you're saying there, Mike Fusick. Thanks for doing the math on that. So if you were asking earlier about DEF fluid and what's my thought on that, I just don't see how you just can't get less expensive than dissolved urea, because what DEF did, the manufacturers, is they took dissolved urea and dissolved it in deionized water and then packaged it up and shipped it. That's all going to cost money. So if you just buy the dissolved urea or the spray grade urea and just do it yourself, which is super easy. Let's just do it easy and say you have 1,000 square feet and you want to apply, let's just say 1 pound per 1,000 square feet. So you're going to apply 2.2 pounds of urea per 1,000 square feet to get 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. And then you're just going to, let's say you have a 3-gallon tank. So you just put in 2.2 pounds of urea in that 3-gallon tank and just spray it all out over that 1,000 square feet. If you want to get real technical and stuff, then you can actually get the amount that you would apply for just one pass rather than spraying it in 3 or 4 passes. But it's not complicated. It'll dissolve in that water, especially if it's warm water, in just seconds. It's cold water, maybe you got to mix it up a little bit, but it doesn't take much. In other words, you just have a bag of soluble urea there. You just scoop it out, weigh it out, put in the amount that you need to put in for that area, and then you have the volume of water. And as long as you spray that volume of water out over that area, then you apply the amount of nitrogen that you needed to for that area. It's not difficult. So thanks for the math, Mike Fusick. Appreciate that. And Aussie Doors, I'm going to take you up on this. I'm serious. I'm going to call you. I'm calling you, and we're going to figure out. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I would like some guidance on what to do down in Melbourne. Hello to you, Coonhound. I'll always say hello to you. You're the one that makes me laugh the most in some of your comments. Russ Jean says, thank you, sir, for calling these people out. They're selling items, and when you try to inform others that a great lawn can be achieved with cheaper alternatives like urea, they get upset. Yes, they do get upset. Yeah, Gray Fox says, it may be a good idea to cover hydrogen paper soon, because folks that haven't been listening to you for long will be asking that question now. I'll tell you what. If members want to do that, great. I'll defer to the members, but I'll always defer to Gray. There's a couple people that is like, if you want me to do it, I'll do it, because Gray, you're so kind to me. You always make you make an effort to make something in the comments, say something in the comments. I do appreciate that. So let me make a note. Okay, if I forget, you'll have to remind me, but I'll make a note to move the hydrotane paper up. There's only one paper on that in the past. From Clemson, and it showed didn't do anything happen. This paper is from the University of Florida, and it also showed nothing happened, but I'll move it up, okay? Oh, Coonhound Favor, you're a member now. I don't know if you paid for a membership or somebody gave you a membership, but welcome to the membership, Coonhound. Man, something just happened. I skipped through a bunch. Sorry, I'm trying to go back. Some of these I can't even put up there. They're funny, but I can't put them up. Chuck Thomas has some decent questions. He says, bottom line, does 1 cup of molasses per 1,000 square feet help with microbes, worms, etc.? I'm not going to say it wouldn't help because I can't prove a negative. I'm just saying that any benefit that you would see from that is so minor, it wouldn't be meaningful. You wouldn't be able to see it. So there really is no benefit to applying molasses except in bizarre situations. So yeah, I wouldn't be applying molasses out there. Molasses is a sugar. The sugars that the microbes feed on, if you apply enough out there, then certainly you can inflate the microbe population temporarily probably. But the microbes are also getting their soluble organic carbon from the roots themselves. So the argument is just make sure the turf grass is healthy and getting fed and doesn't have any limiting resources, and the turf grass will take care of the microbial population, no problem. Oh, thanks, Ashani. He says Lauren Mulder is definitely a base saturation pusher. Yeah, so he's full of it. I don't know about the ants. I don't know about, wouldn't molasses, Coonhound, wouldn't it get more ants? I don't know. I'll get to the TikTok questions before I go, but I'm about done here. Hang on. I mean, Mike Fusick says every time I say just sharpen your blades will have more of an effect than something else. Makes him smile. Love that. Yeah, it's true. I mean, my lawn looked pretty good for years. You guys know, I don't really care about my lawn that much, but I changed to a robot mower. I had a robot mower, but I changed robot mowers, and just changing the robot mower alone had more of an impact than anything I've done in the last 2 or 3 years, because it just cuts more cleanly. It cuts better, looks better. Sorry if there's a buffer. Sometimes there's a problem in the system at YouTube. I think that's a YouTube thing. Sorry, John. Thanks for letting me know. I'll go back and listen and see if there's a problem with the audio and the video. But sometimes YouTube gets out of sync, and I'm not sure what's going on. But sorry. So it should be back on now, though, right? I mean, yeah, there's something wrong with most of the time when the audio goes out, it's usually me, because there's so much stuff on my screen here. It's insane. But I don't see anything on my end. My gauges are moving, and they've been moving the whole time. So I do appreciate you letting me know. But sometimes YouTube just gets a little funky sometimes. Yeah, it says it's back for me. TR Play Ones asks, what robot do I use? I do not sell robots, just so you know. It doesn't make any difference. I've used the Husqvarnas for a while. They were good, but now I use a Luba 2, and I love it. I love the Luba. Big fan of Luba. My neighbor got another one. It's a black one that has much better turning radius, but I don't like the way that lawn looks with that mower at all. It keeps the lawn fine. I mean, it looks fine. It's just that I don't prefer that. I'll prefer the Luba 2 right now. That's what I'm on right now. All right, TikTok, and then we'll be out of here. Let's see. Any questions on TikTok? It says, well, there were questions. I don't know how to use TikTok, just so you guys know. Let's see if I can find where I was. It says, okay, so Nevi me either. I don't know what that Nevi me either says. What about using beneficial microbes to break down thatch and increase microbial activity? Beneficial microbes are another massive scam. There's beneficial microbes everywhere in the soil. Applying more to break down thatch has been shown to not do anything at all. I wouldn't waste my money on that at all. Okay, the best thing you can do if you have a thatch problem, you're going to have to dethatch it. Get a dethatching rake out there, get a dethatcher or a vertical rake or something, and get it out of there. But applying a product in a bottle is probably not going to do much. Even products that contain lacase, the enzyme lacase, it's probably going to be tenuous, the response you get from that, but there is at least some evidence to use it, so you could use that. But applying more bugs in a bag to break down thatch and all that stuff is futile. And you can go back and look at all the literature I've gone over on that. So just so you know my schedule, someone's asking my schedule. I broadcast live to the YouTube members on Monday morning at 10 a.m. and on Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. I usually go for an hour. The last 2 episodes I've gone on for 2 hours, both of them, because I'm trying to get through all these comments and so forth. Most of the time I go over scientific papers. Because if you're watching on TikTok, you haven't even watched one of my scientific paper episodes. But 90% of the stuff I go over is the scientific literature, and trying to decipher it or explain it in a way that can be meaningful for the average person. But every now and then, about once every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll have a tinful of turfgrass where I'll go over some wild video on YouTube, or I'll do something like this where I'll go over comments where people are trying to bash me or say something silly or whatever, or say something positive. And I'll do that occasionally. So if you're on TikTok right now, it's a bit of an odd thing that you're watching this one as the first video. This is not always what I'm doing. I'm usually it's scientific literature. Oh, J2 says, I should take credit for just applying ammonium sulfate and urea and iron. Okay, maybe you have watched it on other platforms then, because I've been going over that a lot. Yeah. Day 2 says dissolved urea for the win. I think that does it on that. Any last minute comments before I go on YouTube from the members? Yeah, I think that was a YouTube thing, because people are closing YouTube and reopening and it's working, which means it wasn't on my end. On my end, it would still be screwed up on my end. Firefly, Jay Smith said, you're talking about Firefly. Firefly's more, I always think of Firefly as a sod production company. They have a lot of machines on sod production, sod farms. They do have some machines that work really well from what I've seen. In fact, I have a video of one on, is it YouTube for the pro member or for the members, of a video of Firefly working on their one of my videos. All right, guys, that's it. I'll be back on Monday morning. And we'll be going over some wetting agent papers, some scientific literature on wetting agents. I really appreciate all the members. So reporting what I do, the subscribers, come over to YouTube, subscribe. You can know exactly when I'm coming on. You can log or subscribe to TikTok or to Twitch or to Facebook. I'm on Facebook too. I think this went on Facebook. Thanks so much. I will see you all on Monday morning for the members and next Tuesday for everyone else. Thanks. Have a good week. Bye.